Hello, welcome in. It's week one for our apologetics class, and just want to take an opportunity to be able to share with you. I'll try and do this for us every week to be able to share a little recap of what we're going to see or what we should expect to see in the chapters we're going to review for the week. So as we get ready to begin our class here, week one, what I encourage you, will always make sure you check our assignments and be able to take a peek at our assignments and get the assignments done by Sunday at midnight, just your study questions there, and also to make sure we check on your discussion posts, answer the discussion question in the thread, and then also respond to two of our other students there, create some discussion and create a little bit of dialogue going on so that we can find out a little bit more about ourselves and how we're viewing this topic of apologetics. So for our first week, chapters 1 and 2, we take a look here beginning with chapter 1. Title is Christianity Rational? And you got to think about this. It's a great place to start, a very important place to start, because really when we're talking about is Christianity rational, if you kind of boil it down and think about the entire process of evangelism or the way people believe or people believing, you got to think that these days many people look at and think and want to see things that are rational, believable. They want things to make sense to them. And that's really the key for people trusting and believing in something is, does it make sense to me? Does it sound logical to me? And we have had experiences with Christ, and we know that his power is real. But for someone that hasn't experienced God's power, hasn't experienced or seen the miracle working power of God, it's hard for them to logically believe and rationalize in that. And we start out by looking at the topic of faith. Faith, basically, we can boil it down to the idea of trust. Really nothing more, nothing less. Faith, we can relate to and boil down and say that faith is trust. Trust, we do it how many times per day? Even non-Christians and thinking outside of the church world, all of us, every single one of us in the world have a level of trust. We trust that the chair holds us up when we sit down. We trust that our car is going to start and be able to take us to work or to run errands when we maintain it properly. We trust that when we flip the light switch, the lights are going to come on if we pay the bill. We have trust that these things are going to happen. And in the same way as Christians, we have trust and belief that God's word is real. It's active, it can change our lives, and it can do great things for us. So this is the trust that we are asking people, non-Christians, to believe in, to have faith in. When we evangelize with them and when we share our faith with them, we are asking them to trust in something that we know. And really, when we think about our Christian faith, or really faith in general, we know that is defined by past experiences. Really, our belief, our trust comes from past experiences. So ways that we grew up as kids, ways that we have experienced God in the past, or through family members, or something that has happened in our lives. These experiences help define our belief, our faith, our trust, our hope that we have in God. And, many of us, we experience it personally in our lives so that we know that trust is real. Someone that maybe hasn't experienced the power of being delivered from drugs or alcohol or gang violence, or many of the things that we may have been involved in. Somebody has a testimony much like myself that just wanted to belong to something and wanted to feel like they're a part of something without knowing and feeling that love of God. We base it off of what we've known, the experiences that we've had in our daily lives up until that point. Like before I knew God, I based my faith, my Christianity off of what I learned from Sunday school as a little kid and all the previous experiences that I had had at church. And then coming to know God the way that I know him, getting saved at a concert, was totally brand new to me. It was a totally new expression of faith and a new real trust that I had to put out there to be able to believe in it. So faith is nothing more than trust. And much of that trust and much of the faith that people have is based on our past experiences. And most people, when they have a lack of faith, or have trouble with faith, it's because mostly of lacking information. Again, that idea that people want things to make sense. They want to understand things. They want to be able to process and be able to go through and have a logical response and those things. And faith and trust doesn't line up with always a logical response or something that makes sense or something that is logical. And the neat thing about faith, though, is in the Bible, it mentions in the book, I believe it's Matthew 22:37. It talks about the Bible providing and supporting rational testing. Saying that we have experienced it with our whole body, that we know mind, body, and spirit. And that's how we experience and that's how we understand, our faith, as the Bible puts it. So it's not just saying believe because we said so, but believe because you've experienced, believe because you've known, because as the Bible also says, tasting and seeing that the Lord is good. Now, it doesn't mean that we're literally going to, be able to take faith in Christianity and have a bite of it like a sandwich. But when we say is we experience it for ourselves, we don't have to take it just on the word of someone else, but we can experience it for ourselves. And I think that's one of the biggest things that we can say or use and even mention when we talk about is Christianity rational, is yes, because you can experience it for yourself. It's not just something that we say, not just something that we talk about that we believe, but something that you and I can experience in our lives on a daily basis that helps build the faith, build the trust that we have. One other point that chapter 1 mentions is sometimes it's not even an intellectual or knowledge problem, but it's a moral problem. It's a problem that we, don't see it or find it as important, or, it says that we don't want to follow. We choose not to. Really comes down to a will issue, and having faith and following Christ and doing what we do for Him comes down to us being able to experience it ourselves, but also wanting to experience it ourselves and wanting to have that experience in our lives. So chapter 1, is Christianity rational? A very kind of deep look to help us be able to get started as we look at the book and as in our chapters, and really kind of help springboard us, because when we talk about everything else, we're talking about bringing people into the faith, into the trust and understanding of God and His Word and His promises for us that we have. So is it rational? The Bible lets us be able to support it because we can experience it ourselves. Chapter 2, that's a very big question. I think this is a question a lot of people ask, and you and I probably asked this question in our lives. Is there a God? Well, is there a God? God, are you real? We look at what's called the scientific method, right? I like to talk about the scientific method and getting into practical and logical things and rational things that make sense. There's the theory of cause and effect. And how can God become if He wasn't created? How can He be a creator? How can He be a creator and creation? Well, it's in this, that God is a cause. He's not an effect. The effect is what He has on us. The effect is our creation. The effect is His Son dying on the cross. The effect is what He has done for our lives. And He is the cause. He is the one that puts this all into motion. See, we look in chapter 2, it also talks about the idea of intelligent design. And the idea how with the scientific method and testing and science not believing in a beginning or ending of time, and time not having that. Well, when we think about time not having a beginning and end, if that's what science suggests, then that means that there must have been a divine intervention. There must have been something that took place to cause that beginning, to cause that event, to cause that to take place. We see in ancient civilizations, as the book says, in very ancient places, in hieroglyphics and petroglyph, ancient drawings, that ancient civilizations recognize the existence of God, and the idea of intelligent design, and knowing that the way things are made, the way things are put into place, the way that the earth is formed, the intricacy, the detail, the complexity. Think about our bodies, the complexity in our bodies, and the way that cells and muscle and tissue and veins and bones all line up together and create this living being that we have. Did not happen out of growth, did not happen out of mistake, but it happened by an intelligent design, by someone who knew what they were doing, who had a plan in place. And this is evidence that God is real, because it's not something that just happened. I think, we think of abstract art that you may see in an art gallery, and a lot of abstract art, it looks like something was just thrown up on the wall, or here you splash the paintbrush against it, and now you're calling it art and selling it for tens of thousands of dollars. But our lives, our earth, our existence, our being, was not some accident or some mistake that God spilled over a paint can and made us. No, it is an intelligent design that He has put plans in motion, and He is the beginning, He is the end, He is the separation of time, and He is exactly what He suggests that He is. And we have evidence of this in our lives, not just by what we experience, but by looking at the idea of the scientific method and the idea of cause and effect that chapter 2 likes to talk about, that it says nothing could come from nothing. Well, God came, and He is a cause, and the effect is everything else that we see. And just an amazing thing to look at there. That's just to be real brief for you and not take too much time. I know you have your reading, you'll be doing your reading on your own, but to just give you some highlights of what we see in chapters 1 and 2 as we get things going and getting started. Again, just as I mentioned in my introduction, please feel free to use email, text, use our messaging on Canvas to be able to contact me. You have any questions about anything that you see, anything about the assignments or that we have, and I'll respond to you as quickly as I can. With that, hope you have a great week. Hope you enjoy getting into the book that we have, and just being able to have a great time. This is Apologetics. This is Kyle. Until next week, thank you, and we'll see you.